Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about the double drag tap and three different variations of interpreting the rhythm for it when you see it on the page with the same notation. So to do that, I'm using Will Coxon's solo number 96 from All American Drummer. It is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to play the sixth line down, which is just actually 2 bars. And there are 3 double drag taps and a drag double paradiddle in this bar. I will show you here in a second. And I'm going to play it different ways, the ancient/European way, the way that I typically interpreted it growing up, based solely on exactly what notes were there, and the way that a lot of people in America modern day interpret it, sort of more in a classical vein. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you want to see the notation I'm looking at, it's these 2 bars right here. Double drag tap, double drag tap, double drag tap, drag, double paradiddle. And you can see that it is the dotted eighth, 16th, regular eighth with 2 drags notation. So this is one of the normal and correct ways to write a double drag tap. It is not the only way you can do it, but this is the one I'm talking about today. So this first interpretation is going to be the modern American sort of classically inspired scherzo interpretation, where the drags are really closed. You play exactly the rhythm that's written on the page, but it's almost a concert drag and not a rudimental drag. A lot of people play it this way. Okay, this next one is a more open rudimental interpretation. You're still playing the rhythm that's on the page, right? That 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6 rhythm, but you're playing it with a much more open drag. That's how I typically grew up playing it. This third interpretation is going to sound weird to modern American ears. So it is the interpretation that is on the Percussion Creative Rudimental Codex sheet, which is something that Klaus Hessler came up with. I've got another video, whichever side it comes up on, you can see that, about the codex in general, but this is the codex interpretation. It's also the interpretation Klaus uses in his Camp Duty Update book. So it is supposed to be the ancient American interpretation as well as the European interpretation of the double drag tap. And you're going to see that it's weird sounding because it has, basically, it stretches the notation into an even 5 tuplet. It is not as written, but it fits into the same amount of space. So if you're confused about why there's 3 ways to play the same notation, you're in the same boat that most people are. Now, all drum notation is open to some level of interpretation, and typically speaking, drummers have not had a good track record historically of writing what they mean. They write something that they think looks good and then tell you, oh yeah, but play it the other way. And rudiments are very much like this. There are a lot of conventions for how we write rudiments on the page, and it doesn't always mean we should play them that way. Although not everyone knows this, so that gives rise to different interpretations that deviate from the original intent. So if you ask Klaus Hessler or ancient drummers from the 1800s and before, they'll tell you that the 5 tuplets is actually the most correct way to play it. If you just look at the notes, you will think that's stupid. But drummers have been doing this forever. One great example is the ride cymbal swing pattern for jazz. The ching, ching, cha-ching, ching, cha-ching, right? You can write that as triplets, you can write it as 12/8, you can write it as straight eighths as long as you tell the drummer at the top of the page that you're doing swung eighth notes. You can also write it as dotted eighth 16th, and people will just assume, oh, you mean swing. One person who's famous for that is Jim Chapin. His blue, advanced studies Chapin book writes all the swing patterns as dotted eighth 16th, but I think we mostly all agree that you would play that as triplets in a shuffled swing feel. So this is just the rudimental version of that, where you see one thing, but potentially it could be played a completely different way correctly, and it may in fact even be more correct. If you got questions about this, leave me a comment below. Thanks for watching, and take it easy.